Have you ever been treated badly just because of how you looked, and wonder what you would do if you had the power to make things right? Before we begin this incredible story of justice, please hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Viral Tales for more amazing true stories. Also, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, because we absolutely love hearing from you. David Chin stood outside the glass doors of Sunrise Brew Cafe, taking a deep breath before walking inside. He was wearing old jeans with holes in the knees and a wrinkled shirt that had seen better days. His expensive watch was hidden in his pocket. His shiny car was parked 3 blocks away. Nobody looking at him would guess the truth. David owned 52 coffee shops all across the country. He was worth millions of dollars. But today, he looked like someone who barely had enough money for lunch. Why was he dressed this way? Because 3 weeks ago, someone had sent him a secret message. The message said that terrible things were happening at this cafe, his best cafe, the one that made the most money. The message said that some workers were being mean to certain customers. Really mean. David had to see it with his own eyes. As he walked through the door, the smell of fresh coffee filled his nose. The cafe was beautiful. Shiny wooden tables, soft leather chairs. Everything looked perfect. He had designed every detail himself. Behind the counter stood a young woman with blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail. Her name tag said Sarah. She was arranging cups on a shelf, moving very slowly. David walked up to the counter and waited. Sarah looked right at him. Then she looked away. She kept stacking cups like he wasn't even there. David waited. 1 minute passed. Then 2 minutes. He watched as a white man and woman walked in after him. Sarah's face changed completely. She smiled big and bright. "Welcome to Sunrise Brew. What can I get started for you today?" Her voice was sweet like honey. The couple ordered fancy drinks with extra milk and special flavors. Sarah wrote everything down carefully. She told them about the delicious cakes they could try. She laughed at something the man said. David's heart started beating faster. He cleared his throat. "Excuse me," he said politely. "Could I please order?" Sarah turned to look at him. She rolled her eyes so hard that David could see it clearly. She let out a big, annoyed sigh like he was bothering her. "What do you want?" Her voice was cold. No smile, no sweetness. David felt something twist in his chest. This was his cafe. He paid Sarah's salary every 2 weeks. He had created this business from nothing, and she was treating him like trash. "I would like a regular coffee, please," David said, keeping his voice calm even though anger was building inside him like a storm. "The system is broken today," Sarah said, not even looking at him. "We can only take cash." David knew this was a lie. He could see the card machine right there on the counter, working perfectly fine. He had exactly $900 in his wallet, plus credit cards that had no limit. But he wanted to see what Sarah would do next. "Okay, I have cash. How much is the coffee?" he asked. $12. David's breath caught in his throat. $12? A regular coffee at Sunrise Brew cost $4.50. He knew this because he had set all the prices himself. Sarah was charging him almost 3 times more than she should. "No problem," David said quietly. He pulled out a $20 bill and handed it to her. Sarah took the money like she was touching something dirty. She held it between 2 fingers and made a face. Then she turned to the young man making coffee behind her. "One basic coffee. Nothing fancy. Make it to go," she said loudly, like she wanted David to hear that he didn't deserve to stay. The young man, whose name tag said Tommy, looked uncomfortable. His eyes met David's for just a second, and David saw something there. Tommy knew this was wrong, but he was scared to say anything. While David waited, he watched everything happening around him. Sarah whispered to another worker, a woman with dark hair whose name tag said Linda. They both looked at David and giggled. He heard Sarah say something about these kind of people and lowering the standards. David's hands formed fists in his pockets. He wanted to yell. He wanted to tell them who he was right now, but he forced himself to stay quiet. He needed to see more. He needed proof. 3 more customers came in after David. All of them were white. Sarah served every single one with a big smile. She asked about their days. She recommended special drinks. She treated them like they were the most important people in the world. Finally, Tommy brought David's coffee. But it wasn't in the nice ceramic cups that other customers got. It was in a cheap paper cup. No saucer underneath it. No napkin. No little cookie on the side like everyone else received. Next, Sarah shouted, looking right past David like he had already disappeared. David picked up his coffee and said, "Thank you." Sarah didn't even look at him. David walked slowly toward the door. His mind was spinning. This wasn't just one mean worker having a bad day. This was planned. This was on purpose. Sarah had decided, just by looking at him, that he didn't deserve respect. As he reached the door, he heard Sarah laugh and say to Linda, "Some people just don't belong in nice places like this." David stepped outside into the sunshine. His hands were shaking, not from fear, from anger, and from sadness, because this reminded him of his childhood. David's mother had been a cleaning lady. She had worked in fancy office buildings, scrubbing floors and emptying trash cans. David remembered being 7 years old, sitting in those buildings waiting for his mom to finish work. He remembered how the rich people looked at her, how they talked down to her, how they treated her like she was invisible. "My boy is going to be different," his mother always told him, even when she was exhausted. "He's going to build something big. He's going to be somebody." And David had done it. By age 20, he had saved enough money to buy a tiny coffee cart. He sold coffee outside his college, waking up at 4 in the morning every single day. He was polite to every customer. He remembered their names. He made them feel special. His first real cafe was so small you could barely turn around inside. But David had a dream. He wanted to create places where everyone felt welcome, where it didn't matter what you looked like or how much money you had, where everyone got treated with respect. Respect as no color was written in every employee handbook at every one of his cafes. Or at least it was supposed to be. Now, standing outside his own business, David realized something horrible. The values he had built his entire company on had been poisoned. Somewhere along the way, people like Sarah had sneaked in. They had learned to hide their meanness behind fake smiles. They had created their own secret rules about who deserved good treatment and who didn't. David pulled out his phone. His fingers moved quickly across the screen. "Michael, it's David. I need you to come to Sunrise Brew right now. Bring your briefcase and all the new company policy papers. We have a serious problem." Michael was David's best friend and his lawyer. They had known each other since college. If anyone could help fix this mess, it was Michael. As David waited on the sidewalk, he looked back through the cafe window. Sarah was laughing with Linda. They had no idea that they had just been mean to the man who owned everything they could see, the man who signed their paychecks, the man who could change their lives forever. David smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was a smile of someone who had just made a big decision. Sarah wanted to play games. She wanted to treat people badly and think she could get away with it. Well, she was about to learn the most important lesson of her life. And David was going to be her teacher. 40 minutes later, a tall man in a fancy suit walked into Sunrise Brew Cafe. Michael Peterson looked like someone important. His shoes were shiny. His tie was perfectly straight. He carried a leather bag that cost more than most people earned in a month. David watched from across the street as Michael entered. He knew exactly what would happen. Sarah would treat Michael like a king, because that's what people like Sarah did. They judged everyone by how they looked. David's phone buzzed. It was a text from Michael. "I'm inside. Where are you?" "Stay there. Watch the counter." "I'll explain everything soon." David typed back. Through the window, David could see Sarah's face light up when she saw Michael. She stood up straighter. She fixed her hair. She gave him the biggest smile David had seen all day. Michael ordered a coffee and sat down at a table where he could see everything. He pretended to work on his laptop, but really, he was watching. 10 minutes passed. Then a family walked in. A father, a mother, and 2 small children. They had brown skin and spoke Spanish to each other. The little girl was maybe 5 years old, holding her father's hand and looking excited about getting a treat. David leaned forward, his heart sinking. He knew what was about to happen. Sarah's smile disappeared the moment she saw the family. She didn't say welcome. She didn't ask how she could help. She just stood there, waiting, with an annoyed look on her face. The father tried to read the menu board above the counter. English wasn't his first language, so he was taking his time, trying to understand all the choices. Are you going to order or not? Sarah said loudly, "We're really busy today." The cafe was almost empty. There were maybe 3 other customers besides Michael. The mother quietly translated the menu for the children. The little boy wanted hot chocolate. The little girl wanted juice. The father was trying to decide between different types of coffee. "Look, if you don't know what you want, maybe you should come back later," Sarah said, her voice sharp and mean. "Other people are waiting." Nobody was waiting. Nobody was even in line behind them. The father's face turned red with embarrassment. "I'm sorry. I just need 1 more minute to—" "We're very busy," Sarah interrupted. "If you can't decide quickly, I need you to step aside." The mother touched her husband's arm gently. David could see tears starting to form in her eyes. "Let's just go," she whispered. "The kids don't need treats today." The little girl's face fell. She had been so excited. Now she looked confused and sad. The family turned and walked out. The father kept apologizing even though he had done nothing wrong. The children didn't understand why they couldn't stay. David felt his blood boiling hot in his veins. His hands were shaking again. That could have been his own family. Those could have been his own children, learning that some people would treat them badly just because of how they looked. Michael had seen everything. His face was tight with anger. He packed up his laptop and walked outside to meet David. "Tell me I didn't just see what I think I saw," Michael said, his voice low and furious. "You saw it," David replied. "And it's worse than we thought." They walked to a coffee shop 2 blocks away, one that David didn't own. There, David explained everything. The $12 coffee, the way Sarah had ignored him, how she treated white customers completely differently. "We fire her today," Michael said immediately. "I can write up the termination papers in an hour." "No." David shook his head. "That's too easy. She'll just get another job and keep being the same terrible person. She'll keep hurting people." Michael knew that look in David's eyes. It was the same look David had when he decided to open his first real cafe. The same look when big companies tried to buy his business, and he said no. The same look when he turned down millions of dollars because he wanted to keep control of his dream. "What's your plan?" Michael asked. "I need you to hire someone, a private investigator. Someone really good," David said. "I want to know everything about Sarah, where she worked before, what she posts on social media, who her friends are, everything." "David, that's going to cost a lot of money." "I don't care about the money," David said firmly. "I care about making sure she never does this to anyone else ever again." Michael pulled out his phone and made some calls. By the end of the day, he had hired Robert Martinez, one of the best private investigators in the city. 3 days later, Robert came to David's office with a folder so thick it could barely close. "You're not going to believe what I found," Robert said, spreading papers across David's desk. There were screenshots from Sarah's Facebook page, posts where she talked about quality customers at Sunrise Brew, pictures of her posing with other blonde workers, with captions about working with people who understand real class. There were Instagram stories where she made fun of customers' accents, TikTok videos where she complained about certain types of people coming into the cafe. "It gets worse," Robert continued. He pulled out his phone and played an audio recording. It was Sarah's voice, talking to someone on the phone. You have to make them feel uncomfortable without being too obvious about it. Like, take forever with their order, or tell them the system is broken and you only take cash, or charge them more and see if they even notice. Most of them don't know any better. David felt sick to his stomach. "She's not working alone," Robert said. "I found a private WhatsApp group. She runs it. It's called Premium Service Standards, but really, it's a place where workers from fancy restaurants and cafes share tips on how to keep out people they don't like." "Who else from my cafe is in this group?" David asked, though he was afraid of the answer. Linda Murphy, the shift supervisor. David's heart dropped. Linda was someone he had hired personally 2 years ago. He had trusted her. She had looked him right in the eyes during her interview and promised to treat every customer with dignity and respect. She had lied to his face. "There's more evidence," Robert said. Sarah uses special codes when she types orders into the computer system. The codes automatically add extra charges to certain customers' bills. She's literally programmed prejudice into your own system. David stood up and walked his office window. He looked out at the city below. Somewhere out there, people were being treated badly just for existing. And it was happening in businesses that carried his name. "I'm going back," David said suddenly. "What?" Michael, who had been listening to everything, sat up straight. "David, you can't. She's already seen you. She'll recognize you." "That's exactly why I have to go back," David said, turning around. His voice was calm but powerful. "Sarah thinks I was just some random guy she could push around. She thinks she got away with it. I want to give her the chance to do it again. But this time, we're going to record everything." Robert nodded slowly. "I can set you up with hidden cameras, microphones, equipment so small nobody will ever see it." "Do it," David said. "And I want you both there too, pretending to be regular customers. I want cameras from every angle. I want every word recorded in perfect quality." Michael stood up. "When?" "Tomorrow afternoon, 2 o'clock, after the lunch rush." David's eyes were hard as stone. Sarah wanted to play these games. Now she's going to find out what happens when you play against someone who actually owns the whole game board. The next day, David dressed in the same old clothes. But this time, he wore a tiny camera disguised as a button on his shirt. He had a microphone hidden in his backpack. Robert and his assistant were already inside the cafe, sitting at different tables with their own recording equipment. When David walked through the door, Sarah was talking to Linda behind the counter. They were laughing about something, planning their weekend. Maybe they had no idea their whole world was about to fall apart. "Oh, great," Sarah said loudly when she saw David. "He's back." Linda looked at David and rolled her eyes. Didn't that expensive coffee last time teach him anything? They weren't even trying to hide their meanness anymore. David walked up to the counter, his heart pounding but his face calm. Every step was being recorded from 3 different angles. "Good afternoon," he said politely. "I'd like a regular coffee, please." Sarah and Linda exchanged a look that said they thought they were so much better than him, a look that said they enjoyed making people feel small. "Sure thing," Sarah said with a fake smile. "That would be $15 today." "15? I thought it was 12 last time." "Prices change," Linda said, stepping forward. "You understand how business works, don't you?" The insult was clear. They thought he was too stupid to understand basic things. David paid the $15 without arguing. He watched as Sarah typed special codes into the computer, the same codes that Robert had discovered, proof of her systematic stealing and discrimination, all captured on camera now. "I'll drink it here today," David said. "Our tables are for customers who order food." Sarah replied immediately. "You'll have to take it to go." David looked around. There were 8 empty tables. But before he could say anything, a young white couple walked in. They sat down at a table right by the window. "Welcome. Make yourselves comfortable." Sarah called to them brightly. "I'll be right over to take your order." The couple only ordered 2 plain coffees. Nothing else. No food. But Sarah brought them beautiful ceramic cups on a silver tray. She gave them menus for desserts. She asked if they wanted any recommendations. David got his coffee in the cheapest paper cup the cafe had. Robert, sitting 3 tables away, caught every moment on camera. The different treatment, the obvious discrimination, the casual cruelty of it all. "Thank you for your business," David said calmly as he took his coffee. As he walked toward the door, he heard Linda say to Sarah, "Some places just aren't meant for some people. Good thing they usually figure out themselves." Outside, David took off his hidden camera and recorder. His hands were steady now. He wasn't angry anymore. He was focused, determined. Michael met him around the corner. We got everything. Perfect video. Perfect audio. Timestamps from a computer system showing her fake charges. This is enough to destroy her. Good, David said. Call everyone who works at Sunrise Brew. Tell them there's a mandatory meeting tomorrow morning at 9. The cafe will be closed. Everyone has to be there. What are you going to do? Michael asked. David smiled, but it wasn't a cruel smile. It was the smile of someone who was about to teach a very important lesson. Tomorrow, Sarah and Linda are going to learn that actions have consequences, and those consequences are going to follow them for the rest of their lives. The next morning, Sunrise Brew Cafe was dark and closed. A sign on the door said, "Emergency Staff Meeting." Inside, 20 employees sat in chairs arranged in a circle, whispering to each other nervously. Sarah sat near the front, looking confident. She had curled her hair and put on extra makeup. "I bet they're announcing promotions," she whispered to Linda. "Maybe they finally noticed all my hard work." Linda nodded, smiling. "We've been running this place better than anyone. We deserve recognition." They had no idea what was coming. At exactly 9 o'clock, the door opened. David walked in wearing a sharp black suit that probably cost more than Sarah made in 3 months. Behind him came Michael carrying a leather briefcase, Robert with a laptop, and an elegant woman in glasses that nobody recognized. The whispers stopped. Everyone stared. "Good morning, everyone," David said, his voice filling the quiet room. "My name is David Chun, and I own this coffee shop and 51 others across the country." The reaction was instant. Mouths dropped open. Eyes went wide. Sarah's face turned completely white, like all the blood had drained out of it. Linda made a choking sound. "Over the last week," David continued, "I have been investigating some very serious problems at this location. What I discovered was completely unacceptable." Robert set up a projector on the wall. The first image appeared. It was a screenshot of a WhatsApp group called Premium Service Standards. Sarah Thompson, David said, looking directly at her, "You run this group where you teach workers at fancy restaurants how to discriminate against customers based on their skin color and how they look." Sarah tried to speak. "Mr. Chun, this is all a big misunderstanding. I can explain." "Be quiet." David's voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the air like a knife. He clicked to the next image. It was Sarah's own Instagram post. A selfie of her at work with the caption, "Another day serving people who truly appreciate quality." This photo was posted at the exact same moment you charged me $15 for a coffee that cost $4.50. David said, "You invented a fake price increase because you thought I would know the difference. Because you thought I was too poor or too stupid to understand." Complete silence filled the room. The other employees looked shocked. Some looked angry. Tommy, the young barista, was shaking his head in disgust. Linda Murphy. David turned to the supervisor. "You didn't just allow this behavior. You helped create it." The next images showed text messages between Sarah and Linda. Messages about using special codes in computer system. Messages about making certain customers uncomfortable on purpose. Messages laughing about keeping the riffraff out. "You too created a whole system of discrimination," David said, "and you taught it to new employees. You made hatred and prejudice a normal part of working here." Linda started crying. Tears ran down her face, ruining her makeup. But Sarah still looked angry, like she was going to fight back. "You can't prove any of this." Sarah said, standing up, "You were lying about who you were. You were sneaking around." David smiled for the first time since entering. "Dr. Williams, would you please explain to Miss Thompson how the law works?" The elegant woman with glasses stood up. "My name is Dr. Patricia Williams. I'm a lawyer who specializes in civil rights. Mr. Chun has every legal right to investigate discrimination in his own business. Using undercover methods is completely legal when done by a business owner. Everything he has collected can be used as evidence in court." Sarah's confidence started to crack. "Furthermore," Dr. Williams continued, "recording conversations in a public business space is perfectly legal. There's no expectation of privacy when you're at work serving customers." David pulled out his phone and pressed play. Sarah's voice filled the room loud and clear. Some places just aren't meant for some people. Good thing they usually figure it out themselves. That was recorded yesterday. David said, "When you humiliated me for the second time, when you thought I was just another victim you could push around and forget about." Linda was sobbing openly now. Sarah just stared at the floor, finally understanding how much trouble she was in. Robert stepped forward with official-looking papers. "Sarah Thompson and Linda Murphy, your employment is terminated immediately, effective right now. You violated company policy and federal civil rights laws. You systematically discriminated against customers based on race. You can't do this to me." Sarah shouted, her composure completely gone now. "I'll sue you. I'll tell everyone how you treated me. I'll make sure everyone knows." "Knows what?" David interrupted. His voice was calm but powerful. "That you created secret codes to steal money from people you thought were too poor to fight back? That you ran a WhatsApp group teaching others how to discriminate? That you posted videos online mocking customers' accents and appearances?" Sarah's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. "Dr. Williams," David said, "please explain what else Sarah and Linda are facing." "Certainly. Systematic discrimination can result in lawsuits from every customer you mistreated. Federal investigators can impose massive fines. Depending on how many people were affected, you could face criminal charges for violating civil rights laws. This is very serious." Linda collapsed back into her chair, her whole body shaking with sobs. Sarah remained standing, but her hands were trembling. All the arrogance, all the meanness, all the casual cruelty had evaporated like steam. "You have 10 minutes to collect your personal belongings and leave," Michael said, handing them each a box. "Everything will be supervised. Your final paychecks will be mailed to you. You're permanently banned from all Sunrise Brew locations nationwide." David watched as the two women who had made innocent people feel worthless gathered their things in devastating silence. Sarah's hands shook so badly she could barely pick up her coffee mug. Linda couldn't even look at anyone. When they reached the door, Sarah turned back one last time. "I mean..." "Yes, you did," David said quietly. "You meant every word, every look, every overcharged coffee. You enjoyed making people feel small. But now you know how it feels." The door closed behind them. David turned to face the remaining employees. Some looked relieved. Some looked scared. All of them were paying very close attention. "Let me be absolutely clear," David said. "Discrimination will never be tolerated in any business I own. Those of you who stood by and did nothing have a choice to make. Change completely or find another job." Tommy raised his hand nervously. "Mr. Chun, I always felt like something was wrong, but I didn't know how to report it. I was afraid I'd lose my job." "Now you know," David said, his voice gentler. "And we've created a confidential system so you can report problems safely. Nobody should ever be afraid to do the right thing." He looked around the room at all the faces watching him. "To those of you who always treated customers with respect, who made everyone feel welcome regardless of how they looked, thank you. You will be rewarded. Raises start next week. And Tommy, you're the new manager of this location." Tommy's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, sir. I won't let you down." "I know you won't," David said. As the meeting ended and employees filed out talking excitedly about the changes, Michael approached David. "That was intense," Michael said. "How do you feel?" "I feel like justice was served," David replied. "Not revenge. Justice. I didn't yell. I didn't insult them. I just showed everyone who they really were." 6 months passed like chapters in a book. Sunrise Brew became famous across the whole country. News articles called it the cafe that changed everything. Business magazines wrote about David's revolutionary approach to diversity and respect. Sales increased by 340% because people wanted to support a business that treated everyone fairly. Tommy led a team of 18 employees who genuinely care about every customer who walked through the door. People of all colors, all backgrounds, all economic levels came to Sunrise Brew because they knew they would be respected. Sarah couldn't find another job anywhere in the restaurant industry. Her discriminatory post had gone viral on social media. Her face was everywhere, attached to the words "racist waitress exposed." No reputable business would hire her. Linda had to move to a different state. After 3 customers she had humiliated filed lawsuits against her. She lost all her savings paying legal fees. Dr. Williams turned the case into a famous legal study that was now taught at universities. The Chun Protocol became the gold standard for identifying and eliminating discrimination in businesses. David created a scholarship fund for young people of color who wanted to start their own businesses. The fund was paid for by the incredible profits from the transformed Sunrise Brew locations. 50 students received full funding in the first year alone. On the wall of the cafe, there was now a small gold plaque. It read, "In honor of Marie Chun, who taught her son that dignity is not negotiable and respect must be given to all." David's mother had passed away 3 years earlier, but he knew she would be proud of what he had built, not just a business, but the values it stood for. One afternoon, David visited Sunrise Brew dressed in his regular expensive suit. A young black girl, maybe 9 years old, was ordering a hot chocolate with her grandmother. Tommy served them with a warm smile, asking about their day, making sure they felt welcome and special. The little girl's face lit up with joy. She didn't have to wonder if she belonged. She didn't have to feel small or unwanted. She could just be a kid enjoying a treat with her grandmother. That moment, David realized, was worth everything. Every dollar spent on investigations, every difficult conversation, every hard decision. Sarah tried to destroy people based on nothing but the color of their skin and the clothes they wore. But in the end, she had only destroyed herself. Meanwhile, David had built something beautiful from the ashes of her hatred. True revenge isn't hurting the people who hurt you. True revenge is succeeding beyond anything they ever thought possible. It's proving that their small, hateful view of the world was wrong all along. It's building something so good, so successful, and so full of genuine kindness that their cruelty becomes nothing but a forgotten footnote in a much bigger, much better story. And that's exactly what David Chin did.